How bad do you think Fallout 5 is actually going to be at this point? Every day after Starfield, more and more people are expressing that they have lost hope for Elder Scrolls 6 and think it's going to be an absolute disaster and it's going to break their hearts. How bad do you think it's going to be for Fallout 5?
As far as the concrete details we have on Fallout 5, there are actually a few of them. The first came in 2021, where Todd Howard described how Bethesda already had a one-pager on the game.
You know, we have a one-pager on Fallout 5, what we want to do. Again, if I could wave my hand and say, have right. that out. You know, I'd like to find a way to accelerate what we do.
This basically just confirming that they have a rough idea of the big picture stuff on the game, like the setting, probably the major factions, and perhaps a bit more. And I actually
that sounds a little bit too much for Bethesda to actually even consider when making a game at this point, not gonna lie.
I think this specific piece of information will become relevant a bit later on, so remember this one. In 2022, we learned that Fallout 5 would release next after the Elder Scrolls 6.
Elder Scrolls 6 is in pre-production, and, you know, we're gonna be doing Fallout 5 after that, so our slate's pretty full going forward.
That was pretty exciting at the time because we had a concrete timeline, but unfortunately in the next...
At the time, because Redfall, Fallout 76 was out of the mind, and Starfield didn't yet just happen. Yeah, I guess those were a more better exciting times because Bethesda did less.
Next year, Todd Howard clarified that Fallout 5 was coming, but it may not be the very next game after the Elder Scrolls 6.
And then last year when we talked, you said, yep, Fallout 5, I want to do that, that'll be next.
That was more of like a general, it will clearly be after Elder Scrolls 6 at some point.
Okay,
that's
well...
like...
Legend has it that Todd Howard has never spoken a single truth since his birth. We don't even know if his name is actually Todd Howard. That's how deep this goes.
Let me clarify that one.
All right, go ahead.
At some point in the future.
So technically right now it's kind of an unknown. We know the Elder Scrolls 6 is coming up next, but there could be another AAA game before Fallout 5. And that's pretty much everything up until the last few months, where we have some of the new...
Triple? I don't know about you boys, but I want quadruple A quality games. I don't know about you, but Skull and Bones? Man, did that just reel me in. What an amazing piece of art. Oh my god.
New Fallout TV show interviews and a bunch of new mentions of Fallout 5. And the first time...
The Fallout TV show looks complete ass, garbage, trash, woke BS that no one should watch. And it's as we all know, it completely ignores established lore. It makes stuff on the spot. And the Brotherhood of Steel are the good guys, obviously. Because not having the clear good guys and the clear bad guys is way too complicated for modern day audiences and Vogue writers.
When this came up, fans weren't that happy. We heard from the showrunners how the Fallout TV show was kind of like their own Fallout 5, with one of them saying, "We didn't start from a place of characters from the game. We set things after. We kind of told ourselves, this is Fallout 5. This is just another installation and we're starting with fresh snow." It seems like a lot of people misinterpreted this one at the time. Some of those Reddit threads saying, wait, so this is replacing Fallout 5? Like they're making a TV show instead of making a new Fallout game? And I mean, yeah, even Todd Howard is executive producing the TV show, but I actually think it's almost the opposite that's happening in reality. That TV...
Well, Todd Howard puts his name on literally everything, even when he shits. He has some little name tags that he pins in there just so everyone knows. I mean, it's just a thing he does at this point, right?
The show Fallout 5, quote, came in December of 2023, but in interviews from the past couple of weeks, we have seen a much clearer explanation. As now, Todd Howard describes, the TV show wasn't the translation of...
That's relatively hot, but completely mentally insane and borderline childlike, most likely, just based off the looks. Which I would say, 20 years ago would have been bad to do, but nowadays... Yeah, judge every book by its cover without exception. It's never wrong. Almost never wrong. But, it's close enough to 100% at this point. It is what it is.
An existing story. It was, what would the next thing be? It just happens to be a TV show. And to me, what that Fallout 5 quote really means is the showrunner...
Also, is Todd Howard the manlet? She's not tall. I can tell that very easily. She is not exactly what you would call tall. Let me Google that real quick. How tall is Todd Howard. 1 meter 68 centimeters. 1.87 m in feet. For you Americans, that is 5.7. No, less than 5. 5'6". Todd Howard is a literal manlet. Hey, anything's under 6 is a manlet. Deal with it, boys. It is what it is.
Runners considered just adapting one of the Fallout games into a TV show, but realized that wouldn't work out. So instead, they're making a new Fallout entry, a totally new story set in the universe and not just adapting one of the existing games, hence it being Fallout 5. Not replacing Fallout 5 the game, but just the next new story in the Fallout franchise. Except, of course, it's not, and Fallout 5, the game, may be coming even sooner than you think. In some of these recent interviews, we hear from the showrunners how, I think we made Fallout 6, we know all about Fallout 5, we're not telling anyone. And even Todd Howard goes on to describe how, well, there were some things where I said, don't do this because we're going to do that in Fallout 5. And I think this is fairly revealing. We heard how back in 2022, they just had a one-pager on Fallout 5. But we're hearing from newer interviews how they're asking the showrunners on the Fallout TV show to not feature certain things. To me, it definitely sounds like more progress has been made on Fallout 5 as opposed to just having that one pager. And even just yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the Elder Scrolls, and to celebrate that, Bethesda released...
This was an actual cool place in Fallout 4. I actually like this place. You got the Institute quest here with the Corsair.
This nice little blurb on the franchise. Towards the end of that, they highlighted how, yes, we are in development on the next chapter, The Elder Scrolls 6. Even now, returning to Tamriel and playing early builds has us filled with the same joy, excitement, and promise of adventure. We'll talk more about the release timeline later in this video, but to me, this very much so sounds like The Elder Scrolls 6 is in full production and could very well mean that Fallout 5 has recently entered into pre-production, especially as they had to clarify a variety of details around Fallout 5 for the Fallout TV show.
Man, how do you think Fallout 5 is gonna actually pan out? How simple are the factions gonna be? Is it gonna be as simple as, oh, the Brotherhood of Steel, they're the good guys, save the people? Even though the Brotherhood of Steel was literally never about it. The Brotherhood of Steel was the closest to Hitler we had without it being Hitler. They were, you know, chaotic neutral Hitler, essentially. That was the Brotherhood of Steel. They were never the good guys. If a million people are dying that way, well, they don't exactly care that a million people are dying there. Now, if those million people have plasma weapons, then they could join in on the killing. If those million people are fighting against someone with plasma weapons, well, then they might actually help the people. But if the people then try to claim any of the weapons or advanced tech, then they would slaughter the people. That's the Brotherhood of Steel. That has always been the Brotherhood of Steel, from start to finish. And now they're the goody two-shoes and everyone else is effectively evil. Do you even know what the Brotherhood of Steel now represents? I don't. They're just, like, the good guys? But what makes them the good guys? I have no idea. I don't know what makes them the good guys. They're just essentially the good guys for the sake of being the good guys. And everyone else against them is, you know, effectively evil. Again, the Enclave aren't also the good guys, by the way, but the Enclave effectively, in a one-on-one comparison, are no more evil than the Brotherhood of Steel. The Enclave just want to start anew and, you know, kill all the mutants, which is a completely reasonable thing to actually want in this case. So, you know, well, it's still technically a bit more evil than the Brotherhood of Steel, but at least the Enclave want to save the people that can be saved and want to restore society. That's technically more good than the Brotherhood of Steel, because the Brotherhood of Steel is literally not interested in the restoration of society.
And I think I even know where Fallout 5 is going to be taking place, and that may be very relevant to the Fallout TV show and what happens during its story. From this recent magazine article, we learned that Todd Howard did have one very specific ask of the Fallout TV show showrunners: to make sure the series storyline didn't contradict any of the major possible endings of the games, which the showrunners did respect. So basically saying, don't do anything in the TV show that will confirm or canonize one of the endings of the video games, because we have heard how the Fallout TV show is canon. And although this seems high level, there are a ton of mainline Fallout games, there are actually only 2 that don't have canon endings right now, making this a fairly specific detail. For the vast majority of the games, you can deduce which ending is considered canon based off what happens in the next game. Like for Fallout 3, there are certain things mentioned in Fallout 4 which effectively confirm how the game is supposed to have ended. And since Fallout 3 is only 16 years old, I will not spoil that canon ending for you. And the only 2 main
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that's true. I don't even remember the Fallout 3 ending, honestly. Fallout 3 is one of those games I don't think I have finished. I have played it multiple times, but the main story is just not that interesting at all, honestly, in my opinion. You know, Fallout 3 is in effect pretty weak. Fallout 3 is not that good of a game. Fallout 4 is, in my opinion, a better game than 3 honestly is. But New Vegas is the best game, obviously.
mainline games where we don't have a canonical ending right now are Fallout 4.
And also, already, all of these games are, story-wise and timeline-wise, completely rewriting history, okay? Fallout 4 came out, it completely rewrote lore, because because what it did was impossible. The timelines literally don't fit. Nothing that we know about the game world so far fits in a timeline. It's just none of this shit makes sense.
And Fallout New Vegas. And I think this could be a gigantic clue as to the setting of Fallout 5. I've lived in New York my entire life, so when I heard that Fallout 4 was originally intended to be set in New York, the best state in the Union, I was ecstatic at this news. They must be saving.
I don't know, the crime rate's going up, the murder rate is going up, the living quality is going down. I don't know about that, Juicy, my boy. I don't think even New York agrees with the idea that New York is not a shithole any longer.
New York for an epic next-gen Fallout 5, perhaps even on next-gen consoles, after not using it for Fallout 4. And this could even flow together perfectly with that respecting endings request. Which faction is destroyed at the end of Fallout 4, or which several factions are destroyed, would have massive impact.
There's no way the Institute survives, in my opinion. That's gonna definitely be a thing. Well, the Institute is gonna obviously survive, but their main headquarters are not gonna survive. Because the obvious thing about the Institute is the fact that the shit makes no sense. The Institute is introduced as this boogeyman that no one even knows if it's real or not. Are synths actually real or not? No one knows! Yet you can find a synth component from synths and, you know, then prove that they are actually synths, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, nothing makes sense in Fallout. That's like half of the point, honestly, at this point. And, well, the motivations of the Institute are literally like head scratchers. The moment you stop and think about the Institute and any of its motivations or logics behind its actions, you just understand that Bethesda is completely incapable of writing anything that requires more than 2 brain cells rubbing at the speed of light to compensate for their stupidity overall. Okay? So listen, the Institute is supposed to be this crazy boogeyman that at one point just magically announces its existence. The Institute is supposed to be people who fucking make robots that can do labor for you for free. And yeah, that's... How do you not take over the world? You literally can make robots make other robots. And they kind of do that. And they can replace any leader with a synth. They can teleport, okay? They can just teleport the leader out from his bed and replace with him with a synth instantaneously, and then just enslave the whole Commonwealth. Like, the fact that the Institute does not just completely own everything at the bare minimum in the Commonwealth is insane. Considering the Institute has literally all the resources required to completely dominate the Commonwealth from second one. Man, that's stupid. But yeah, that's why the Institute cannot survive, because it's literally overpowered technically. They have teleportation, all of that jazz. No one can win against them.
Impacts on what happens in New York. Boston is, of course, the setting for Fallout 4, and just 4 hours away from New York. They're very close to each other. I quite literally just did this drive this weekend to go to PAX East. But as incredible as that would be, I don't actually think Fallout 5 is taking place in New York, even as much as it hurts my own heart. And instead, I think Bethesda is taking...
They also talked about New York being a place that they're gonna make Fallout for a very long time at this point.
once again to sunny California, and even more specifically, San Francisco. This one has so many things going for it that I would honestly be shocked if it doesn't end up being the setting it.
It still happens. The vibrating planks.
At this point, San Francisco has already appeared in a Fallout game. It was kind of a side location in Fallout 2. You could go there and do stuff, but it wasn't really meant to be a full-blown epic city. It's partially inhabited by the Shi, Chinese submarine survivors turned researchers that largely stay out of wasteland politics, as well as the Hubologists, who are a religious cult based in San Francisco, even before the bombs dropped. But very notably, San Francisco is left quite open-ended. We don't really know what is going on here by the time of some of the later games, like does the NCR have control here or not? Do any of the other major West Coast factions have a presence? So then all of a sudden, the ending of Fallout New Vegas becomes very relevant due to its proximity to San Francisco. Perhaps Bethesda asked the showrunners to leave the current NCR situation rather vague in the TV show, as to not confirm a specific ending for New Vegas, which will become relevant for Fallout 5's plotline. San Francisco is only a few squares away from New Vegas. And that just makes so much more sense with the consideration of the Fallout TV show taking place in LA. The ending of Fallout 4 doesn't really matter that much for the Fallout TV show. It's all the way on the other side of the country, while the ending of New Vegas is directly impactful. Actually, a lot of people assumed the Fallout TV show would canonize one ending because of it being based in LA. And what takes this to a fun fan theory to now my own headcanon is, this actually isn't the first time Bethesda asked somebody else to leave San Francisco lore alone. We also heard in the NoClip documentary that they asked Obsidian to not include a line in New Vegas about San Francisco being blown up.
They could place this game anywhere. In fact, at one stage they had asked Obsidian to remove a line in New Vegas about San Francisco being totally wiped off the map. They wanted the Bay Area to at least be an option for future games.
Which, yeah, that definitely suggests that all the way back during the development of Fallout New Vegas, Bethesda had at least some kind of plans for a Fallout game in San Francisco, and there are a lot of clues that this could be coming. Bethesda has had this history of teasing aspects of the next game in past ones.
Imagine San Francisco. Your faction options. The ghouls, the group that supports ghoul rights, and I don't know, insert rainbow flag concepts for San Francisco Fallout here. It would be a shithole, okay?
Fallout 3 had both the Institute and the synths in-game, and even beyond that, certain characters were carried over between the games. Fallout 4 has a ton of mentions of San Francisco. Kellogg originally came from San Francisco, and San Francisco Sunlights are literally his favorite cigar. A major portion of his memories that we run through highlight this, even giving us a direct look at the Golden Gate Bridge. And remember those Hubologist inhabitants I mentioned earlier? Well, the only other place they appear outside of San Francisco is Nuka World as a part of Fallout 4's final DLC. They're cool, but otherwise kind of random inclusion that make a lot more sense if this is all a Fallout 5 teaser. And I mean, hey, even the Shi technically got some representation in Fallout 4. They had their skins added.
I mean, I wouldn't think about this too much, because the reality is, you know how this gets written? In the dumbest way possible, obviously. And that is, hey, let me type in Fallout 1 factions and main characters. And then someone just, inputs a Easter egg reference to that character, or says that they're from that tribe or location. Considering it doesn't mean shit, it's super easy to include. Things like this in an as poorly maintained universe as Fallout don't matter anything, okay? If you have a character, mentioning the Earth Tree or whatever from Dark Souls, that actually matters, because that is a world with, lore and actual world building. But in games like Fallout that just, at this point just shit all over the blanket and then pretend it's the blanket was originally brown, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
it in via Creation Club. Even when this released, all the way back in 2019, I commented how it felt super random. It's one of the only times a standout Fallout 2 faction was recognized in Fallout 4, and in fact, now both of the major factions of San Francisco were somehow added into Fallout 4. There, of course, is an interesting component to all of this, as the West Coast has largely been reserved for not Bethesda. Each of Bethesda's own games takes place on the East Coast, and a Fallout 5 in San Francisco would be their first endeavor over the West, except no, it actually wouldn't be. That's a very common talking point with Bethesda moving to the West Coast, but they're already doing it. The fall TV show takes place in Los Angeles, just 5 hours south of San Fran. Todd Howard and likely some others from Bethesda are helping with the show. We know explicitly that Todd Howard is an executive producer of the show, so I'd be shocked if, in the process of forming out the lore and some of the story for a LA Fallout, it did help to begin the process of concepting Fallout 5 in San Francisco. That could be set a bit earlier or a bit later than the TV show. In other words, Bethesda is already going to the West Coast with the lore-friendly Fallout TV show, so it makes quite a bit of sense for them to return with a game a short while later, especially if this TV show's a success. If the Fallout TV show ends up doing big numbers, which as of right now, a lot of the content around the show before its release has been doing big numbers, things are trending positively.
Things are not trending positively, okay? Everyone thinks that this show is going to be a disaster. Same, by the way, same. I see no current reason why I wouldn't call the Fallout TV series an absolute objective piece of shit. Now, maybe it isn't, but it probably will be.
But this dropping as a blockbuster of a show only makes me think that Microsoft and Bethesda will have further incentive to start work on Fallout 5 as quickly as possible. So that undecided game after The Elder Scrolls 6 seems more and more likely to be Fallout 5 to me, a big portion of that being due to the Fallout TV show. Plus, when you look at how things ended up with Starfield, I just can't imagine they're jumping immediately to a Starfield 2. And we know at least at one point Bethesda was considering this based off them asking Obsidian to not include that line. So great, Fallout 5, I think it'll be San Francisco, and maybe even you agree, but when on earth is this game coming out? We're kind of in this weird situation with Bethesda now where we don't really know what their new release cadence will be. Everything kind of changed with Starfield. They updated their engine to Creation Engine 2. This will seemingly be the base for the next few games, and while they will likely introduce further...
Imagine. Starfield comes out, everyone is literally calling it a completely failed thing graphically because it looks like it's 20 years old, even though it's brand new. And then you get the news that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be made on that same shit engine that looks already outdated, even though it's technically updated and brand new. And then Fallout 5 is going to be on the same shit engine. Wow! Wow! I'm so happy, said no one.
Upgrades with each new release with both the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. It definitely feels like the bulk of the upgrade was complete with Starfield, so hopefully we'll start to see faster releases after this one. During Starfield development, they quintupled in size, going from one studio with about 100 devs to now 4 studios with around 500 devs, and even now they are owned by Microsoft, which functionally has unlimited potential support teams. During the recent trial between the FTC and Microsoft, we get some interesting updates though. One lawyer claimed that the Elder Scrolls 16 was coming by 2026. So okay, 16? There's definitely at least one major issue with that quote, and even Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, later on testified that it'd be at least 5 years before we see the Elder Scrolls 6. But 2026 is pretty interesting because this would line up almost perfectly with the leaked Bethesda roadmap that also accidentally leaked during this...
Oh, the leaked Bethesda roadmap means nothing. Bethesda's incompetent. They have absolutely no idea what is going to happen.
FTC trial. This roadmap was made back in 2020 during the buyout process between Xbox and Bethesda. And what it shows is a 3-year gap in between Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6, which of course would put the Elder Scrolls 6 as a 2026 game, which that lawyer literally said. This will contradict the...
I don't think that's going to happen. After Microsoft acquired Bethesda, they're the reason Starfield didn't release in a worse state than Fallout 76. They literally fucking told Bethesda, no, you're not releasing this game now. You're gonna spend a year or almost 2 years or however long they spent fixing bugs. Otherwise, this would have been a 76 situation. Starfield was worse than 76 bug-wise. And Microsoft prevented that, at least at the bare minimum, right? So, after seeing how much people hate Starfield, uh, I I easily see it a possibility that Elder Scrolls 6 gets delayed way longer than anything else because of, well, people are not happy, okay? The Bethesda fanboys are gonna be happy no matter how big of a shit Bethesda pushes down their throats. That reality is not changing. But the Bethesda fanboys at this point are the minority. Everyone else is looking with fear at Elder Scrolls 6, considering how incompetent, blatantly incompetent Bethesda is. So, it's not looking good.
Head of Xbox, who seemingly would know a lot more, but at the same time, it's not that hard to imagine. Bethesda used to release games roughly every 3 years, and now returning to that cadence with an updated engine, a much larger team, and a far larger budget could actually make a lot of sense. Honestly, I would be shocked if Bethesda's next game takes an additional 5 years. And for a release cadence of every 3 years really does happen, that would imply a Fallout 5 release date of 2029 at the earliest, and I genuinely think this could happen. Technically, Todd Howard did say Fallout 5 may not be next, but I just don't see a huge appetite for Starfield 2 right now, unless they go in some other crazy new direction. So yeah, to me, around 2030 does seem like a legitimate timeline for Fallout 5, or perhaps even a little bit earlier. And we definitely could see something else before then. There have been a lot of rumors around remakes over the last few years. That same FTC roadmap also had both an Oblivion and a Fallout 3 remake.
Okay, and I also have obviously talked about this, but no one wants an Oblivion remake. Oblivion is not a game that's gonna age well. Oblivion, Morrowind, all of that garbage is something that you have fond memories of as a kid. That's it. Oblivion remake, just a graphics update, is gonna be shit. People are gonna hate the game. No questions asked. I didn't play Oblivion, but I played Morrowind, okay? I do not want to play any shit game that literally has an invisible RNG dice roll mechanic and doesn't tell about me when I need to decide do I make a hit or not, okay? And that was literally Morrowind. As a kid, fine. As a not kid, not fine at all. Okay? It's just bad. And Fallout 3 is weak. Fallout 3 is not that interesting. Remaking Fallout 3, okay? I mean, maybe I would play it, but I don't know. I don't like Fallout 3 that much. I think Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 3. Sure, you don't get to blow up Megaton, but Fallout 3 is not all that great. It does have its moments, for sure, but overall, Fallout 3 is kind of weak. I would prefer playing 4 over 3.
Remaster slated, and a separate and pretty reputable leak also mentioned an Oblivion remaster on the way, so 2 distinct sources mentioning this. And this Oblivion leak came out before the schedule leaked, so this is definitely some converging evidence here. There have been a variety of mentions of spin-off games being discussed. We've heard rumors of it being talked about at Obsidian, and even in Exile Entertainment, but those are really just rumors and we don't know right now. And even as of just this past month, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4 have all gotten updates on SteamDB in the last 30 days, which to me does seem to heavily suggest that those games will be seeing some kind of update or change.
I think this is just Bethesda trying to push up hype. Like, say what you will. The games are shit, but Bethesda is pretty good at pushing out hype and videos and, making people talk about their stuff. Bethesda does that pretty well. And even though most of it at this point is negative, they're still making people talk about it. And that's not because it's just negative. In general, it's just worth talking about. Say what you will, but Bethesda has had a really good success ratio at getting people to just talk about it, about stuff. And this is, I think, just one of those things. This doesn't mean anything, because you can not even change anything and still update this, as far as I understand. And if you want to change something, you can add something useless or, one fucking dot somewhere, and you can change this. This doesn't mean anything. I think this is just a Bethesda PR stunt. It is what it is. Anyway, that was our boy Juicy Head. Good stuff. Anyway, this was Wizard Sensei, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye bye.